Let's open the floor to questions. I know we have a lot of them, and we have a hand right back here, and we have a microphone over here, right here in the front, right here. Come right forward, straight forward. Yes.
Thank you. Barry, this is a question to you. You started by indicating that innovation is key in Massachusetts. And being a good economist, I know you think that everything's interrelated. We have national universities, so we throw the net out to bring everyone here. The talent that we bring here and train here, are we retaining them here? Because if we're not, are we just becoming a feeder for other parts of the country or the world when you have a mobile applicant pool, so to speak?
Sure, good question.
Bob, that's a great question. You know, every year we do a housing report card, but part of it is a demographic report. And in the middle of last decade, we were losing 60,000 residents a year, net. And they weren't snowbirds going to Florida. They were young people who were going elsewhere. And part of the problem was just the high cost of housing, as well as what we were doing in job creation. So you're absolutely right, retaining talent. What does that take? Number one, I continue to be concerned about having housing for young people. We're going to have a massive housing demographic shift. A lot of those big homes that some of us live in the suburbs are housed by people, are housing people like me, who in the next 5 to 10 years are going to want one amenity in their life. It's called an elevator. And because we're not going to be able to go, I live on the 3rd floor of our house. I'm not going to be able to do that. I actually think part of the reason why home prices are not going to come back like they did before is there's going to be a lot of single-family suburban houses on the market. Are we going to have the kind of multifamily, both condo and rental housing for young people that they can afford, that's close to work, because that's what they want to do? Number two, will we continue to have all the other amenities that young people want? The cultural amenities, the music, the restaurants, and so forth. I want to be able to attract my son back from Chicago to live in Boston or Cambridge. So we need to do that. Okay, maybe we can get them to meet. Still looking for grandchildren one of these days. This guy's got twins on the way.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So what I think we have to do is focus on that. I've talked, I think, before at another AIM meeting some time ago about what I call the third Civil War. The first Civil War, of course, was in the 1860s. You've all seen Lincoln. Between the North and the South, mainly over slavery, the North wins. The second Civil War, fewer people know about, but if you grew up in Detroit, you knew a lot about it. It's where the industrial might of the nation would be in the middle of the 20th century. The South won. The third Civil War is a demographic Civil War. It's where the young people are going to decide to live and put down roots and create the new economy for all of us. And there are going to be some communities that are going to win. There are going to be communities that lose. The communities that win are going to have great, exciting jobs, good, affordable housing, lots of cultural amenities, a good infrastructure, all the things we're talking about. I've been at Northeastern for 12 years. I taught for 17 years at BC. We need to put more effort into our public universities because most of those young people stay in the state. We're doing a pretty good job at Northeastern of keeping people who come from out of state in Massachusetts through our co-op program. They're working at Citizens. They're working all over the place. They get their first job after university graduation, often with their co-op employers. Then they become part of Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, Patriots Nation, and they'd rather see it live than on TV from San Francisco, and we keep them here. That is what we need to do.
We have a question right over here.
Yes. Hi, my name is Mary Yusevich. I'm with Repsol Energy, and I'd like to shift the conversation to energy. I'm sure you're aware we have a paradigm shift on natural gas prices. They're historically low. We have a domestic supply, yet Massachusetts is still 40% without access to natural gas. And I would think having this new energy source coming into the state would do tremendous things for the economy. I'd just like to hear your comments on that.
Who'd like to comment?
Well, I would just make a sort of an overriding comment that one of the difficulties of manufacturing in Massachusetts is high energy cost. And so anything we can be doing to reduce that input cost creates value, I believe, for companies in our marketplace. And so I think it's an important thing to be focused on. The other thing I would say is, as our fiscal policy unfolds after years of quantitative easing and we start to worry a bit about are there inflationary concerns on the back end, lower energy costs and the technology and the innovation that we're putting into driving those costs down with more discovery and access, I think can also be a very important counterbalance to other inflationary pressures that may emerge as we move forward. I don't know how others feel.
Excellent. Do you have any questions? Right over here. We have a microphone right behind you. Just a moment. It's coming. Do we have a question over here? We'll get a microphone to you soon.
My name is Dan Cook.
Yes.
I'm very interested in the optimism, pessimism question that was asked very early on. There are very few hands went up on the pessimistic side of the future. And I was curious as to what industries those folks might be in, if they wouldn't mind answering that.
Oh, you mean the pessimists in the room?
Yes.
Or the ones who are not feeling as confident? That may be an unfair question. I'm not sure. Tell us, please.
Brewing. Brewing.
Brewing.
People drink more when times are bad and the economy is
I'd like to offer that people drink more when the Patriots win.
Any others that are pessimistic? Say again?
Is that the depth of our pessimism in this room?
I'll do my part to pick that business up, by the way.
We'll work on that. That's great.
I actually think it tends to be businesses. The number one thing that I think drives a company to invest is their own visibility around revenue and their own backlogs. And so generally speaking, it would be industries where the CEO, CFO are feeling as though they either don't have good clarity on the outlook or demand's actually declining. And I think the others, we're all dealing with the same level of uncertainty around us. The others, I think, just see that their own prospects cutting through that are quite good.
Yes.
Let me tell you one thing that does make me a little worried. And you'll find this kind of weird contrast in me because a few seconds ago I was telling you I want to get rid of the corporation income tax, right? But one thing that does worry me, and it should worry you, is the continuing growing income and wealth inequality in our Commonwealth and the rest of the country. When you go back and you take a look at why the economy boomed so much after World War II, the answer is that we created a middle class. We took a working class America, I grew up in Detroit, and we took what were blue-collar working class, and I define a working class as a class of workers and their families who have relatively low wages and very little economic security. And when you have very little economic security, you tend to save whatever you can rather than to spend because you're worried about tomorrow. We created a middle class, much of it driven, by the way, by the trade union movement, who took advantage of, let's say, the auto industry to create not only good living wages, but life insurance, health insurance, pensions, and so forth. And the middle class worker went out and spent like crazy. They bought suburban homes, they bought their second car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They sent their kids to college. We have been on a path since the 1970s, accelerated in the 2000s, accelerated this decade, toward greater and greater inequality, and the middle class is under attack. Without a middle class, we don't get the demand. And without that demand, companies fail. So something has to be done to deal with that. That's part of the reason why I support some of the tax programs that the Obama administration supports and that some of the Republicans don't. But I think we have to do a lot more about that, and part of that, a large part of that, and I'm pleased to see the governor push on, is improving the educational outcomes of those who are not in the best schools, not in the best communities, and giving them an opportunity to get the skills to compete for those middle-class jobs. That's critical, not just for those young people, many of whom we don't know very well where we live, but it will be critical for the survival and prosperity of our businesses.
Yes, we have a question right here in the middle.
Hi, I'm Beth Williams from Roxbury Technology. Hi, Barry. You just kind of hit on what I was talking about. That pretty much covers my industry. I am an inner city entrepreneur and manufacturing company, and pretty much employ 70 of some really difficult employable people, that don't have the education, drop out of school, but really have the desire to learn like everyone. And so one of my concerns is I am seeing that gap grow. And it's a matter of there's a group of folks that are being left out that we have to figure out what we're going to do with them, because we're either going to pay them or pay for them. So, I really think that that's a key topic, and I hope that you really are focused on that, and I would love to talk to you a little further offline about that, because as I see that gap, kids dropping out of school, but they want to learn, they want to do something, they want to work, and there's no jobs for them because they don't have the skill set. So we have to figure out how to make that work.
I think we've skipped around that issue a lot, talking about helping the underperforming areas in the state, community colleges, and trying to find those workers of the future. So, yes.
I didn't know Beth was going to be here, and I haven't seen Beth in a couple of years, but let me give you an advertisement. Beth runs a wonderful company in Roxbury called Roxbury Technology. They do toner cartridge replacements. We use them at the Dukakis Center. We're using them at Northeastern. Phenomenal business. I've gotten to know your employees because they hand deliver them to me. Get Beth's business card. You want to work with her. Because also building up inner city businesses is part of the way we put that middle class, we bring the middle class to the middle city, and they become great consumers. We see it in the South Cove Mall. That's the kind of thing we should do, and she is running one great business.
Thank you. How's that? We have a question right over here.
Yeah, Barry, earlier you were talking about the life sciences portion, and I only bring this up because, and I ask, is that a real growth sector? Just because I have knowledge personally of one of those as my client, and they put pieces in the paper. It says, well, we only lost $1.4 million this quarter. Is that really a good growth area? Or there's so, if the state spends money in that area, is it really going to pay off, or is it,
Right.
it's something that's going to disappear?
I can't give away too much of my report, which will be coming out in early March, but let me tell you the following statistic. Now, the life science is a broad-based set of industries. It goes all the way from, testing labs and big pharma to medical devices and everything in between. It is the fastest growing industry, although it's still small, in the Commonwealth. It's growing faster than education and healthcare. It had growth during the entire recession, which wasn't true of most industries. It's still only about 3% of total employment, but it's growing rapidly. And it's spinning off in all kinds of ways. Most of these companies are small and they're not making money yet. The big companies like Pfizer, Novartis, Sanofi are doing fine, and they're putting big plants in the ground, mostly in Kendall Square. This is a sector to watch very carefully because I think it's going to grow very rapidly, and it's one place where the state has used its funding through the Mass Life Sciences Center in a very creative and comprehensive way, and has helped build that industry. Not so much, it turns out, by supporting the big guys, the ones I just mentioned, but by supporting all the small fish, many of which are going to come up with that breakthrough technology, and then they'll be a target of acquisition by a Sanofi or a Pfizer or one of those.
And then the challenge will be to keep it here.
And then the challenge will be keep it here, and that's why we need to keep our foot on the accelerator in that industry. I started my investigation very much where you are. Come on, it's a small sector, it's not that important, and I also thought it only gave jobs to PhDs. That's not true either. There are lots of jobs for people with community college degrees and even vocational high school degrees. So I'm actually bullish on the life sciences here. It's leading the country. By 2007, we were growing faster than any other life sciences state in the nation. And I think from my interviews with dozens of CEOs and executives, we're going to see this a very profitable industry in the very near future.
Okay. One more question. Yes.
Hi, Lenny Glynn, Putnam Investments. I just want to come back to the jobs question a little bit and just ask the panel, can you envisage any way, by way of policy or tax changes, where we could encourage or reward corporations and employers who are actually hiring American workers? I mean, we have you know, R&D tax credits, we've got, you know, depreciation in plants and so on, and we have job creators and growing companies. Couldn't they receive some kind of tax break from the federal government and perhaps from the state as well for proven job creation?
Kathy, you want to take that? Or?
Well, I think that certainly is a good part of a discussion to have in terms of what do we want our tax policy to achieve. And if that's a goal we want to achieve, that's certainly something to discuss. But you do have to think about the costs of changing something like that, where you've got to then go through and verify. How do you verify that it's employment? And do you want to keep that going, or is that a short-term kind of plan? You know, when we're out of a recession and growing, do you want to continue that kind of policy? And it's an important conversation to have. And I think the more that we can be involved in those conversations with our representatives about what it is we want to see happen, I think the better off everyone will be.
Jerry?
Yeah, the comment I was going to make on this, we did a program actually at Citizens Bank going back, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I can't remember the exact time frame, but we called it a Jobs Bank program. We worked with the state, and we tried to create an incentive with lower than market fixed rate loans for property, plant, equipment expansion that produced new jobs. And those jobs were subject to audit by the state in years 2, 3, and so on. And I would say it was marginally successful. It created some opportunity for certain businesses, but we didn't see enough there to say this is the kind of program we want to continue and persist with. And I think at the root of it all, it really comes down to the fundamentals of economics, which is if the demand is there and a business has the right infrastructure, it's going to grow with or without a particular incentive. So I don't mean to, you know, suggest that there aren't ways to boost or create even more energy around a particular segment, but I think fundamentally business will create those jobs themselves when demand is there.
Barry?
I think the best job creator that we can do to create jobs is to make sure we have employees who are qualified for that work. So overwhelmingly the most important thing that the state should be doing is investing in education, training, rebuilding our vocational education community college system. I'm not a great fan of tax incentives for job creation. Where they are done well, there are strong clawback provisions, as there are in the life sciences, so that a firm sets a target for how many jobs they're going to create. They get a small tax credit for that. If they don't meet those targets, we claw back the subsidy or the incentive. But it can have a little effect, like you probably found, Jerry. Mm-hmm. But the real big thing, when we did this study, when we talked with the folks in the life sciences, over and over again, even in the financial services, said what we really need are well-trained, ready-to-work folks who have the appropriate skills that we need. And when we asked our manufacturers this year, what are the major problems you face? The short-term problems were exactly what Jerry talked about. Cost of health care, the cost of taxes, the cost of energy. When we said, what are the longer-run concerns, the number one was, where are we going to get the labor force to replace our current aging workforce? If we can do that in the Commonwealth, we're staying in the Commonwealth.
Excellent. And that wraps up this edition of the Kathy, Jerry, and Barry